Have you ever been wronged, betrayed, insulted, or underestimated, and felt that deep, burning urge to strike back, to show them they picked the wrong person, to defend your name, to prove you're not the one to mess with? That reaction is natural, it's human, but it's also predictable, and predictable men are easy to control. Here's a truth most people overlook. You don't need to fight to win. You don't need to raise your voice, throw punches, or prove anything to those who try to bring you down. The Stoics, those ancient masters of discipline and clarity, understood something most modern minds forget. Real power is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg to be seen. It holds still, unshaken, unbothered. Seneca once wrote, "He who is injured ought not to return the injury, for on no account can it be right to do an injustice." That wasn't weakness, it was wisdom, because the man who stays calm when others explode, the man who doesn't react but simply watches, he's not retreating, he's controlling the battlefield. Think of it this way: when someone insults you, mocks you, or attacks your reputation, they're throwing a rope. And every time you respond with anger, defensiveness, or the need to set things straight, you're grabbing the rope and tying it around your own neck. But when you choose silence, when you respond with stillness, not emotion, you let that rope fall useless to the floor. That's the quiet power of Stoic revenge. It's not about letting people walk all over you. It's about rising so far above their level that their attacks can't even reach you. Let me tell you a quick story. There was once a Stoic master who lived in a small village. Every day, a bitter man would show up and hurl insults at him, trying to get a reaction, trying to provoke rage. But the master never said a word. One day, a curious student asked, "Why don't you ever respond to him?" The master smiled and said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong? Let it sink in. Every insult is a gift you don't have to take. Every jab, every provocation, every attempt to drag you into the mud, it only works if you reach down and play their game." Now ask yourself, how many times in life have you given away your peace just to win an argument that didn't matter? How often have you fought battles that left you drained, not stronger? Marcus Aurelius put it plainly: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is not some abstract theory. It's practical, it's tactical. In a world that constantly pulls at your attention, your patience, your dignity, choosing to stay still is the sharpest move you can make. Because nothing confuses your enemies more than your refusal to react. They want to see you flinch. They want to pull you down to their level. And when you don't, when you remain steady, composed, and unaffected, they lose control. That's not just self-mastery, that's dominance without lifting a finger. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop trying to prove yourself, you start to become undeniable. When you stop explaining, your presence begins to speak for you. And when you stop reacting, the power dynamic shifts entirely in your favor. So the next time someone tries to trigger you, at work, online, even in your own family, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this battle worth my energy? Or is my silence already louder than any response I could give? Remember, true victory isn't when you make them hurt. It's when they can no longer touch your peace. That's what it means to be untouchable. That's what it means to win like a Stoic. And that's just the beginning. Let's now explore the first unstoppable tactic that will help you master this mindset and make you immune to the games of petty people. Part 1. The Art of Non-Reaction. Let's begin with the first, and perhaps most misunderstood, Tactic of Stoic strength. Do nothing, at least not immediately. Now that might sound strange in a world obsessed with fast responses and quick comebacks, but the wisest men in history knew something most people still haven't figured out. Reaction is weakness. Response is power. There's a reason enemies provoke you. They're not always trying to beat you physically. They want your attention. They want your focus. But more than anything, they want your reaction. Why? Because once you react, especially with anger, frustration, or bitterness, you're no longer in control. They are. That's the moment they win. Whether it's a toxic coworker throwing shade in a meeting, an ex who knows exactly what button to push, or a stranger online trying to start a firestorm in the comment section, the goal is the same: get you to lose your center. And here's where the Stoic mind flips the script. Instead of lashing out, you pause, you breathe, you observe. You choose not to give them what they crave. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit. Think about that. If you explode, it's not because they were powerful. It's because you gave them permission to control your mind. It wasn't the insult that hurt you. It was the part of you that still needed to be right, still needed to be respected, still needed to win. That's where the real battleground lies, not in their actions, but in your internal dialogue. Let me ask you, how many arguments have you replayed in your head long after they ended? How often have you wasted hours, days even, thinking about what you should have said? What if I told you that none of that was necessary? What if I told you that your greatest power isn't in striking back, but in refusing to be touched at all? There's a kind of man who's impossible to defeat, not because he's physically stronger, but because he's emotionally unshakable. He doesn't flinch when insulted. He doesn't crumble when attacked. He simply doesn't give away his peace. And that kind of stillness, that kind of poise, it's terrifying to your enemies. Why? Because now they don't know what to expect. They can't read you. They can't manipulate you. And when someone can't predict your response, they can't control the outcome. You become unpredictable. You become untouchable. That's the Stoic way. It's not about running from conflict or pretending nothing bothers you. It's about learning that most battles aren't worth fighting, and the ones that are, they require clarity, not chaos. There's a simple exercise I use, and maybe it'll help you too. The next time someone tries to push your buttons, ask yourself, is this a test of my strength or a trap for my energy? Because most provocations are traps designed to steal your focus, drain your spirit, and make you act on impulse instead of intention. And when you don't take the bait, when you simply observe the chaos without joining it, you stand above the noise like a mountain stands above the storm. That's not indifference. That's intelligence. You're not choosing silence because you're weak. You're choosing silence because your time, your energy, and your peace are worth protecting. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." You see, most of the pain we experience in conflict is optional. We choose to carry it. We choose to engage. We choose to suffer over words that don't deserve a second thought. But what happens when you choose differently? What happens when you just let it go? You free yourself, and without saying a single word, you've already won. So here's your challenge. The next time someone insults you, criticizes you, or tries to stir your emotions, don't react. Just notice. Just breathe. And remind yourself, this is not mine to carry. Because every time you master the art of non-reaction, You reclaim your energy, you sharpen your focus, and you make it clear. You are not here to play their game. You're here to win yours. And that is how a Stoic fights. Part 2. Transform your pain into purpose. Here's something no one teaches you when you're down. Pain isn't the end of the road. It's the beginning of something deeper, a new kind of strength. Most people see pain as punishment, as something to run from, to numb, or to curse. But the Stoics saw pain differently. To them, pain was raw material, fuel for building something greater. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Let that sink in. The thing that hurts you, the thing you didn't ask for, the betrayal, the loss, the failure, that's not a block in your path, it is your path. The obstacle becomes the training ground, and the pain, it becomes your sharpening stone. You see, most people waste their pain, they sit in it, complain about it, or worse, let it define them. But a Stoic does something different. He uses it, because every scar tells a story. Every hardship is a lesson. Every heartbreak, every setback, every betrayal, it's an opportunity to build discipline, deepen clarity, and develop emotional armor. Imagine this. You go through something devastating. Maybe you lose your job. At first, you're crushed, angry, lost. But instead of staying there, you pivot. You use that fire to build something new. You develop skills. You take control. You rise. And a year later, you're more fulfilled, more focused, more powerful than you ever were before. Now, here's the best part. Your enemies, they lose. Not because you shouted louder, not because you got even, but because their attempt to break you only made you stronger. That's the quiet power of transformation. When someone tries to bury you and you grow deeper roots, when they want you to quit, but you level up instead. That kind of resilience, it confuses people, it humbles them, and eventually it silences them. So let me ask you, what pain are you carrying right now? Is it rejection, failure, being misunderstood? Whatever it is, don't let it go to waste. Use it. Use it to wake up earlier, to train harder, to study deeper, to get so focused on your growth that your past no longer defines your future. Because when you do that, when you turn pain into purpose, something incredible happens. Your growth becomes the loudest form of revenge. Not revenge that's petty or vengeful, but a silent, powerful response that says, "You didn't destroy me, you refined me." And the beauty is, you don't need to say a word. Your progress speaks. Your peace speaks. Your evolution speaks. When people see that you didn't crumble, they take notice. And when they see that you rose because of what happened, not in spite of it, that's when they realize they didn't win. You did. And not just externally. You won internally. You mastered the one thing they couldn't touch, your mindset. Remember, the Stoic warrior doesn't just endure suffering, he alchemizes it. He takes the blow and turns it into momentum. He takes the pain and turns it into purpose. That's your invitation now. The next time life hits you hard, don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask instead, "How can I use this?" Because you can. You can use it to cut away distractions, to clarify your values, to build unshakable self-discipline. And with time, that version of you, the one who rose from the pain, the one who didn't give up, the one who walked through fire without losing his soul, that version will become undeniable. So whatever they tried to take from you, peace, dignity, confidence, take it back, quietly, deliberately, and rebuild something they can never touch again. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep moving, even if it's slow, even if it hurts. Because every step you take away from that pain with purpose is a step toward becoming untouchable. This is your training ground. Turn your pain into power. Let your progress be your proof. And let your life whisper the one thing your enemies never expected to hear. I'm still here, and I'm only getting stronger. Part 3, Master the Art of Strategic Silence. Let's get one thing clear right now. Silence is not weakness, it's not avoidance, and it's definitely not surrender. Silence is control. In a noisy world where everyone's eager to defend, react, and prove a point, the man who remains quiet commands the room. Because here's what most people don't realize. Every time you react, you hand over a piece of your power, you give away information, you reveal your emotions, you show them exactly where to aim next. But when you stay silent, you give them nothing. No reaction, no energy, no map to your mindset. And that, my friend, is when things begin to shift. Because silence forces the other person to face themselves. Without your anger to deflect from their behavior, without your words to argue with, they're left alone with their own guilt, their own insecurity, their own chaos. And that's far more powerful than any argument you could have made. Imagine this. Someone tries to provoke you. Maybe it's in a meeting, maybe it's online, maybe it's someone close to you who knows exactly what to say to trigger a reaction. Now they expect you to fight back. They want the drama. They're playing chess with emotion, but you just watch. You breathe, you smile, and you say nothing. At first they might feel victorious, but over time, that silence gets loud, uncomfortably loud. Because when you don't react, they start questioning everything. Why isn't he mad? Why isn't he fighting back? Did he see through me? Did I go too far? That's the beauty of strategic silence. It's not about ignoring, it's about choosing not to be moved. Seneca once wrote, "It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. Most people only master the first, few ever master the second. But those who do, they become nearly impossible to manipulate." Think about the last time you got pulled into a pointless argument. Did anything change? Did anyone actually listen? Or did it just drain your energy and waste your time? Now think about the times you remained calm, when you chose not to respond, when you let your silence speak for you. That kind of discipline leaves a mark, not only on the people around you, but on your own self-respect, because you didn't stoop, you didn't flinch, you stayed rooted. And here's the deeper truth. Silence protects your boundaries without having to explain them. You don't have to justify yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't owe every opinion your energy, and not everything deserves a reply. When you embrace this mindset, you become unpredictable. And that unpredictability, it creates power. Because if they can't read you, they can't control you. And if they can't get a rise out of you, they eventually unravel. People often project their pain onto others because it helps them avoid facing it. But when you don't react, when you don't absorb it, deflect it, or argue with it, you're holding up a mirror they can't escape. And most people aren't ready for that. So they fumble, they get louder, they get messier, until the truth reveals itself, without you ever needing to say a word. Let me ask you, have you ever watched someone self-destruct because you refuse to play their game? It's a strange thing, but your silence becomes a pressure, and their own guilt becomes the weight they can't carry. This is not about being cold. It's about being clear. Clear about your peace. Clear about your standards. clear about your power. So the next time someone tries to bait you, stop. Ask yourself, is this worth breaking my peace for? Or is silence the sharpest answer I can give? Because sometimes saying nothing is not the absence of a response. It is the response. And it echoes longer than any comeback ever could. Part 4. Build a life they can't touch. Here's a truth you discover the moment you stop trying to prove yourself. The best revenge is no revenge at all. Not because you let people get away with what they did, but because you outgrow the entire battlefield. Let that land for a second. The real power isn't in winning the argument, clapping back, or making your enemies feel small. The real power is building a life they can't reach. A life rooted in peace, growth, discipline, and direction. So solid that no insult, no rumor, no betrayal can shake it. Seneca said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And he was right. You don't win by becoming what you despise. You don't win by lowering yourself to the level of those who thrive on chaos and conflict. You win by rising quietly, consistently, and completely beyond their reach. Think about it. You can spend your time chasing petty battles, or you can spend your time building something so real, so grounded, so meaningful, that none of those battles matter anymore. Because eventually your life becomes your response, your early mornings, your discipline, the way you carry yourself with calm, focused energy, the way you treat others with kindness, not because they deserve it, but because that's who you are. That speaks volumes, and no enemy can compete with that. Let me tell you a story. There was a man once ridiculed by his peers, laughed at, underestimated, talked down to. He could have fought back. He could have argued, tried to prove them wrong, tried to make them respect him, but he didn't. Instead, he focused on his mission. He showed up every day. He trained harder, worked smarter, moved in silence. And years later, the same people who doubted him were watching from the sidelines, confused, silent, and irrelevant. Because here's the thing. When you stop trying to be impressive, you become undeniable. When you stop chasing battles, you win the war. Because nothing disarms your enemies more than your indifference. They want you to engage. They want you to fight. They want to stay in your head rent-free. But when you stop giving them space, when your mind is too focused on your goals, your growth, and your inner peace, they lose access to you. That's what it means to build a life they can't touch. No amount of gossip can shake a man who knows his own values. No amount of shade can dim the fire of someone who's been sharpening themselves in silence. And no amount of noise can distract someone who's built his identity on discipline, not validation. So let me ask you, are you still chasing revenge, or are you building something they can't destroy? Because revenge is temporary, but evolution, that lasts. And when you shift your focus from reaction to creation, something powerful happens. You reclaim your time. You reclaim your energy. You reclaim your peace. Suddenly, you're not just escaping the drama, you're replacing it with progress. You're not trying to prove you're better. You're simply becoming better. And over time, that shift creates a ripple effect. People who once disrespected you won't even recognize the version of you that emerges. Not because you shouted louder, but because you rose higher. No warning, no revenge post, just a calm, focused life that speaks for itself. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. So the next time someone tries to drag you down, remember this. You don't have to fight back. You don't have to defend your name. You don't have to prove anything. Just keep building. Wake up early. Move with intention. Live by your principles, not your emotions. Choose peace over pettiness. And let your results speak for themselves. Because in the end, what's more powerful? Winning the fight or becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to fight at all? That's the goal. To become so rooted in your values, so focused on your vision, so aligned with your purpose, that no enemy, no insult, no cheap shot can touch the life you're building. That's not revenge. That's transformation. Part 5, Return to Inner Equilibrium. Here's something most people never learn. You don't need closure from the people who broke you. Not an apology, not an explanation, not even acknowledgement. Why? Because the peace you're looking for isn't out there. It's in here. It's internal. It's self-earned. And it's your responsibility. The Stoics knew this deeply. When the world turned cruel, they didn't chase justice from the unjust. They didn't wait for others to admit they were wrong. They returned inward, to their values, to their discipline, to their inner clarity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." That's the destination, not revenge, not validation, but inner equilibrium. Because when your mind is grounded, the storms outside lose their power. Let me ask you something. Have you ever spent weeks replaying a conversation in your head, trying to figure out what you could have said to change things? Waiting for someone to finally realize how much they hurt you? It's exhausting. And the worst part is, it changes nothing. That person might never see it. They may never own up. They may never care. But that's not your prison anymore, unless you keep locking yourself inside it. True freedom begins when you stop waiting for closure and start choosing inner alignment instead. Because real peace isn't found in someone else's apology. It's found in the way you carry yourself forward, with dignity, with clarity, with calm. There's a certain kind of man who's hard to break, not because life has been easy, but because he's learned the art of returning to center. No matter how badly people treat him, no matter how unfair the situation, no matter what was taken from him, he recalibrates, he breathes, he chooses calm. And that calm, it's not passivity, it's power. Calm is your weapon. Detachment is your armor. Not coldness, not indifference, but the ability to stay rooted in your own values when everything around you is trying to pull you off balance. People may betray you. Life may shake you, but your inner compass, your principles, your character, your stoic discipline, that's what brings you back. And the moment you stop responding to chaos with more chaos, the moment you stop letting other people's behavior dictate your emotions, you win. Not just externally, internally, because now you've returned to something most people never find: self-respect. And here's where it gets even more powerful. You don't have to prove that you've healed. You don't have to announce your peace. Let your life do the talking. Let your discipline, your silence, your consistency be the proof that you rose, not because of what happened, but in spite of it. When people look at you and expect bitterness, but find grace. When they expect retaliation, but see focus. When they expect collapse, but witness quiet strength. That's the real victory. That's the transformation they can't touch. Because while they're still wrapped up in drama, you're building. While they're still talking, you're evolving. And while they're still trying to get a reaction, you've already walked away at peace. So if you're still holding on to what was said, to what wasn't fixed, to what you think you're owed, take a breath and ask yourself, is this keeping me in chaos or leading me back to balance? The Stoics didn't seek power through control of others. They found it in control of themselves. And you can do the same. You don't need the final word. You don't need closure in the form of fairness. You just need to choose yourself, your peace, your direction, your standards. Because that's what inner equilibrium is. It's not a perfect state of mind. It's not about avoiding all pain. It's about coming home to who you are again and again, no matter what the world throws at you. That's the kind of strength no one can steal. So here's the takeaway. Don't go looking for peace in the places that broke you. Return to your principles. Return to your breath. Return to your inner clarity. And let your life say what your words never need to. You didn't react. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You returned to stillness, to strength, to yourself. And in doing that, you've already won. The final silence. So here we are, at the end of the battle, but not the kind you were taught to fight, because this war wasn't fought with fists or fury. It wasn't won by words or comebacks or public victories. It was won in silence. It was won in the places no one saw, when you chose to stay grounded while others tried to shake you. And now the final truth. You didn't destroy your enemies. You outgrew them. There's a kind of growth that doesn't need permission, a kind of strength that doesn't ask for attention. It just is. And that's what you've been building all along. Not revenge, not applause, but something quieter, stronger, realer. You mastered yourself, your emotions, your impulses, your need to be seen, heard, validated. You let go of the need to prove. You stopped chasing closure. You chose alignment over reaction, purpose over ego, discipline over drama. And the result? They faded. Not because you defeated them, but because they couldn't reach you anymore. That's the irony. The ones who tried to tear you down never got to see who you became, because by the time they looked back, you were already too far ahead, too clear, too focused, too far removed from the chaos they still swim in. You became untouchable. And here's what most people never understand. The loudest form of victory is silence. Not the silence of weakness or avoidance, but the silence of someone who's moved on, who doesn't flinch, who doesn't play small games, who doesn't give attention to noise. Seneca once said, "How much better to heal than to seek revenge from injury?" Because revenge is about them. Healing is about you. And rising, that's about what comes next. So if you've walked through betrayal, pain, disrespect, and came out more peaceful, more focused, more aligned with who you really are, that's it. That's the win. You don't need to look back. You don't need to say, "Look at me now." You don't need to explain how you made it through. Your presence explains it. Your calm explains it. Your stillness speaks for itself. You've become what they never expected. Someone who isn't reactive, but resolute. Someone who doesn't fight to be right, but moves forward to become better. Someone whose silence carries more power than their noise ever will. Because in the end, the greatest warriors don't draw their swords. They don't need to. They walk on, unshaken, unbothered, unmoved. So if you've been waiting for the perfect moment to say something to those who wronged you, let this be your reminder. You already did, not with your words, but with your growth, with your clarity, with your life. That was your final silence, and it was deafening. If this message landed in your soul, if you're walking your own silent path of self-mastery, drop a comment below and say, "I rise quietly." And if you're new here, subscribe, because this journey of inner strength, calm discipline, and modern stoicism has only just begun. Stay grounded, stay focused, and above all, stay untouchable.